Hello and happy Thursday. It is a 3 Inks Thursday and it's number 29 in this series. In a 3 Inks Thursday video, I swatch 3 inks on 3 different papers and I use 3 different size nibs to provide a writing sample. And then we can take a moment to appreciate the differences, the similarities, etc. So, for this 3 Inks Thursday video, I realized as I flipped through, I really haven't done a purple. So I chose 3 different purple inks. The order that I will be swatching them will be based on the fact that 2 of them are shimmer inks and 1 of them is not. I will start with Wearing Gold Jane Eyre. This is a sample that I received in a Ink Journal Ink Flight subscription box. And I'm going to place that right into my Inkapet so it doesn't tip over because that would be a catastrophe. And then I have Vinta Haribon, which has a kind of silvery lavender shimmer. So we'll agitate that further before I swatch it. And then last but certainly not least is Ferris Wheel Press Blooming Mushroom. Now with these little Ferris Wheel Press bottles, they are super cute, but you know what kind of ink it is based on the sticker on the bottom. So there's that. Okay, for my tools, I will be using a Kakimori brass nib dip pen, and then 3 TWSBI Goes in a fine, medium, and stub nib to do a little writing sample. So let's get swatching. Now these are lighter purples, like a light to a medium. Now the book that I'm swatching in is a Galen Leather Co. Everyday Notebook with Tomoe River paper. It is, just to give you a little peek, it is mostly used, so it is very chunky. Yeah, so with the TWSBI Go pens, I will use the fine to write the brand name of the ink. And the medium to write the name of the ink. I have a mason jar of water off to the side to rinse my tools off after each color. Am I spelling that right? Yes. Now, I actually discontinued my Ink Flight subscription when my family, we went through a little budget review. I will say I loved it while I received it, and it comes with five ink samples and then a gift or 2, and those additional gifts kind of range. With the stub nib, I will do just some lettering. Okay, so there is Wearingeul Jane Eyre, and I'm already seeing some really nice, fascinating differences across the different papers. All right, next up is Harbon, Vinta Harbon. Now, I got these samples quite a while ago, and this is from Van Ness. And I picked this one out because it's just such a beautiful color. But the one other time that I used a Vinta ink, it was very dry, so I've been a little hesitant to ink up others. This is going down kind of a bluish color, but I believe it dries to a purple. And if it doesn't, I will show you in my Wearingeul swatch book why I selected this ink to go with this palette, or with, I guess, this 3 inks. I'm just feeling like doing a little cursive today. I don't always do that in my 3 inks videos, but I'm feeling it, so going with it. Beautiful. All right, and the third ink is Ferris Wheel Press Blushing Mushroom, which has this beautiful pink shimmer. I remember when Ferris Wheel Press was launching this ink, I think it's the Fairy Tales collection, along with Adventurine came after this one. But I hadn't seen the pink shimmer before, and I was so enamored with the promotional swatches and posts that they were doing that I immediately bought a bottle. And as you can see, I have not used it much because I just began exploring a lot of different inks at that point. And it was a few months before I started my channel, so a couple years ago now. But it is beautiful. Now the Ferris Wheel Press bottles are not super practical. Now this is also a drier ink, so I'm not sure if it's difficult to write with because I'm not really saturating the feed enough, or if it's because it's dry. Let's try giving this a little spin. Beautiful. I say that a lot. Sorry. I'm not very good at writing with a stub. I will never claim to be. Okay, let's cap that. And let's take a look. Actually, because I think it's going to be valuable, let me grab my swatch book over to the side here. And I'm going to find, so there's Wearing Gold Jane Eyre. There's Ferris Wheel Press Blushing Mushroom. And there's Vinta Haraban. So this is the Wearing Gold swatch book. I occasionally get a question about that. This was one of the gifts included in an Ink Flight subscription box. It does not note what kind of paper. So certainly when I'm picking things in this swatch book, it can look very different on this swatch page. So this might be a nice example of one of those. However, as this has continued drying down, especially here on the Tomoe River paper, it is leaning a little bit like a purplish gray as opposed to when it went down is a little bit bluer, and you can, on the Cosmo Air Light, comparatively to the Tomoe River paper and even the bank paper, it is more of a grayish blue versus the purple. So, and the Wearing Gold Jane Eyre is just a little bit of a pinkier purple, like a mauve color. And I wonder if this would have been a really nice pairing with Diamine Harmony, Diamine Amazing Amethyst, and even Ferris Wheel Press. I think it's called Jade Rabbit, if I'm recalling that from memory. But here are the inks. So starting from the top, I think my signature at this point is fingerprints. I should just have a spot the fingerprint contest at some point. But here's my little fingerprint right here. On the first ink, Wearing Gold Jane Eyre, across the three papers, it is a pretty similar base color, but you do see quite a bit more saturation on the Cosmo Air Light, so it pops a little bit darker. But when you look at this less saturated area, it's a very similar color. I'm seeing a little bit of pink come through here in the corner on the Tomoe River and a little bit on the bank paper as well. And I'm seeing that same pink coming through around the edges of the more saturated area, which is a really interesting complexity to this ink. With the Vinta Haraban, it's interesting as my eyes continue to look at it, it's shifting a little bit more of that grayish blue, even on bank paper and Tomoe River paper. And I think if I were to pull some of my other grayish blue inks and swatch this, it would definitely skew how the eye is seeing it. But there are these sections in the more saturated areas that you're seeing, or for me, I'm seeing the purple come through. The shimmer is really lovely. It's a very thick shimmer, especially on the bank paper, which is the first one that I'm swatching. It's evenly distributed. In the writing, let's see if I can get a good angle on that. And the writing sample was done after the sample had been agitated and sat for a few moments. But there's some shimmer in Haraban. I'm seeing quite the distribution of shimmer. And I believe, if my memory serves, I did submerge that into the ink sample a little bit more, just because when I wrote the word Vinta, it was it felt a little dry. So that could be a product of getting down to the bottom of the sample. Blushing Mushroom, it's such a beautiful color. I don't know why I don't ink this up more. I think if I were to go back and look at my currently inked pages, I would question whether I was putting this in too fine of a pen. And I believe, if I remember correctly, and this was before I started my channel, I got the Blushing Mushroom ink or the Adventurine ink at the same time as my Ferris Wheel Press brush pen. And I got that in a fine. And I remember reaching out to Ferris Wheel Press and saying, this doesn't write very well, because I was having to really flood the feed to get the ink flowing because the shimmer was clogging the feed. And the response from Ferris Wheel Press is you really should use a broader nib with your shimmer inks. So, and I have thoughts about that. If you're going to make an ink and you're going to sell fountain pens, your ink should work in all your fountain pens. That's my opinion. You can disagree with it if you want to, but that's just my opinion. So I think that that's partially why I don't gravitate towards inking this up, but it's such a beautiful ink. The base purple is this really lovely lavender color. On the Cosmo Air Light, it is leaning gray, and it's very similar to Venta Harbin on the Tomoe River paper. Those I could probably put side by side, and it would be, you could think it was the same ink and that the shimmer was added after, just because you've got the silver shimmer versus the pink shimmer. On the Life Bank paper, at least for me, I'm seeing some spots of blue come through in the maybe the more saturated areas, which is likely where the blue is so much more prominent on the Cosmo Air Light paper. And then the Tomoe River, I live for this. This is everything right here, where it's the ink pooled. You've got a little bit of that blue, almost navy around the edging, and then the saturation of the pink shimmer. It's absolutely beautiful. So there are the 3 inks for week 29 of 3 Inks Thursday. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next 3 inks, which will be number 30. If you are not yet subscribed, please hit that button so that you can know when I post another video. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye.